Hi, welcome to Stat Sisters. My name is Carrie, and I talk each week with my sister Erin about all things nursing, with the occasional Harry Potter thrown in. We talk about the nursing topics that you care about. We also chat about nurses in the news, and most importantly, answer your questions. Hello, Erin. How are you today?
Pip pip cheerio. I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Okay.
Let me start over. Hello, Carrie. I am great. How are you?
I am doing very well. I miss you though.
I know I can't believe it's been 2 weeks. It's ridiculous. I mean, I really miss you too. We haven't podcasted in it's been 2 weeks since we recorded.
It has been. Yes, it has
And
been.
that's just way too long. I feel kind of like a slacker right now. So
I
I was
know. Me too.
I was thinking about that today. I was driving the kids around and driving the kids around all day long. And I'm like, we have not recorded and I miss our little chat time when we get to record and do our little chit chat before and after, and so yes, I miss you. I need more
Miss you
podcasting
too.
in my life.
I know. Well, in 13 more days, we'll have a lot more time because I will be done with
Right.
school finally.
Oh, is that coming up?
I know. I haven't talked about it incessantly
Every
for the
time.
last like 3 months.
Insert this into every podcast.
Yeah. I am really ready to be done.
You know what? 13 days is less than 2 weeks.
That's true.
Okay, come on. I
Yeah.
expected some more excitement. Like, yeah! I'm sounding
I'll
more
be
pumped than
excited
you are.
later.
Oh, you're
'Cause
ridiculous.
well, of course you are because you're tired of hearing me talk about it, I'm sure.
No, because I'm supporting you and I love you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was actually looking at graduation announcements and I was like, yeah, it's actually here.
Ooh, that's so exciting. Is it like high school? Do people like mail you money and stuff?
Well, I'm going to put no, please no gifts because I think that like an almost 40-year-old asking for graduation gifts is a little lame.
Okay, I was going to say that. But on the other hand, you've kind of really earned it. I mean, I'll send you a cookie sheet. How's
It,
that?
I'll take donations for the regalia because it's like almost $600 for that.
Oh, ouch. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Maybe you could just streak instead.
I'm sure that would be great for my like CV. Streaked at
Well,
graduation.
you don't have to put it on there, obviously.
Well, I'm super excited about today because it is a very special podcast. We have our very first interview.
Yes, live interview. Da, 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 da.
Anyway, this is my friend and colleague, Terance Cheramie, and we've been working together for almost 2 years at St. Mungo's, but he joined us at St. Mungo's from military, and so he's bringing a
Aha.
really unique insight into some of the topics we're going to have today. So welcome,
Yeah.
Terrence.
Well, thank you for having me. It's kind of weird being on the other side of the fence, being a long time podcast listener. So,
Nice. Well, we're
yeah,
glad to have you. I was really excited when Carrie told me about you and your interest in our show. I thought this is exciting. So,
I know we're so lucky to have you, and you're the first, so it's going to be super, super awesome.
it's our maiden voyage.
more
We're
awesome
doing that.
than guinea
Nobody
pig
can see,
style.
but we're doing a happy dance if you're getting feedback. Carrie's bouncing on her labor ball. We've got to record this, like our audio, because we look ridiculous.
Oh man. Well, let's get to some topics, some nursing
Okay.
topics.
What the hey?
We only been prattling on for 5+ minutes, so that's actually
Psh.
better than normal.
That is pretty much way better than normal.
Okay, so do you want to start us off with our first topic?
First of all, I guess maybe let's give you, Terrence, if you could give us a little more background as to your position presently at St. Mungo's with Carrie, and I think that'll kind of help lead into our first topic.
Sure, that's good. We like that. So I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. I started out as a nurse in the military. Did that for about 4.5 years. Got out, was at a local hospital, and then I got transferred out to this hospital because I had a job opportunity as a nurse leader on the mother baby unit.
Awesome, great. So how many years, all told, have you been a nurse, Terrence?
I think I'm going on my 8th year right now.
Okay, great. So definitely not a newbie, it sounded like. And then you have a managerial role presently and specific to the night shift, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so we've kind of touched on this topic before. A few times we did a night shift nursing podcast early on, one of our first episodes, I think, Carrie, where we talked about
Mm-hmm.
pros and cons of sleeping in the night shift, and not like sleeping on the job, but like appropriately approved napping and studies for safety and things like that. So we're gonna kind of we're gonna go back to that a little and talk about just general night shift considerations. And my first one that I've got here is just kind of leave policy in general. Um, what are your feelings on that?
Myself and Carrie were talking, what, I think last week, some time
Mm-hmm.
frame, specifically about sick leave. We initially came upon is that currently, most hospitals have very stringent leave policies, and when we
Absolutely.
talk about people taking care of people, people have to be 100% to take care of people. So if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of others,
Right.
right?
Right.
So there's that fine line of actually most hospitals have a certain amount of time that you can actually take off of work, not get penalized for it, and I think we're both on the same page that in most cases that's okay, but in some cases it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically when we're talking about impaired as far as not being 100% at work and taking care of patients.
Right.
Right. And
Absolutely.
we were talking about this. I think it started because I had been very, very ill earlier in January. And so I had come to work ill. I couldn't really even function. I went to the doctor. I kept coming to work, and then I finally went to the physician and was diagnosed and received some medicine and was getting better. But I felt so guilty leaving my staff without their leader, and then my kids got sick, and so I had to call in again because I didn't have anyone to take care of them, and it just puts us in a really hard position. So we've talked about this before, and we were like, I think our conclusion, Aaron, was we don't know what to do about it because we have this responsibility to patients and other nurses that we're working with, but it's like a dual responsibility. We have a responsibility to show up and take care of them, but also we have a responsibility to show up healthy so we're not getting everyone else sick and coming to work in the best frame of mind possible so that we can take care of them to the best of our ability. So they're competing responsibilities, and we don't want to get written up for not coming to work. But just like this, in January, my family has been sick. First, they got upper respiratory infections, and that put us all out. And then we all got GI bug, and that put us out again. That's twice in 1 month. And
And
so
it
that's
happens. I mean, we think about the community. We work largely in the communities which we live in, and so whatever we're seeing come in to the hospital with those community acquired illnesses, we have a good chance of catching in our families and passing them around, whether that's ourselves or our kids. And like you said, yes, we're in the business of taking care of people, so it's that two-edged sword. Yes, we need to have staff that's reliable and dependable and there, because if not, we have unsafe ratios and we have patients that don't have the right amount of nurses to care for them. But the flip side of that is, do you just want a body filling that role? Do you just want a body taking a patient assignment who drug herself in with 100-degree, 101-degree temp, or she's worried about her kid at home who is not possibly getting enough fluids? Do you want somebody who's really, really, truly there and can do the job well, and kind of like, what is the solution? How do we make both ends meet? Is kind of where
right.
we're
And
at.
so yeah, and so that's as far as we got in our last conversations. But Terrence and I were talking, and he had a great. I felt like it was a good solution that is a carryover from his military time. So, would you like to talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that we have to do is we have to have some kind of balance between taking care of ourselves. As nurses, we talk about health promotion all the time. and we talk about health education, and we do that with our patients. But we, as all three of us sitting here know, we don't take care of ourselves.
No.
Nurses do not take care of themselves. And we have this innate want to take care of people, even though at that particular point in time we're not necessarily feeling 100%. The problem with that is that if you're not at 100%, you can't process in your mind to take care of people and do the things that you have to do, both legally and morally, when you're not feeling well, or your mind is foggy.
Yeah.
It clouds your judgment.
If you're trying not to vomit and
Yeah.
you're trying to give narcotics to people, it's not
Right,
a
or
good
do-
mix.
Calculate a heparin drip or whatever it happens
Right.
to be.
Right.
You're not at the top of your game.
Yeah, I would settle, because you're saying 100%. I always settle even for like 90%, because, we all work a little bit when we're tired, or,
Right.
But definitely, like, I was showing up to work, I couldn't even function.
Right. When patient safety becomes an issue, that's
Yeah.
not good.
Absolutely.
So we kind of came across a combination of things where, currently we have kind of like a personal time bank, and we're allowed to call in so many shifts, which, if you're not sick, is kind of frowned upon. But
Right.
the way that you manage your own time out of work is up to you. But when we're talking about ourselves as nurses and being able to function on the job, I propose unlimited sick leave, provided that the person actually goes see a physician and gets the recommendation to be out of work, that they're actually sick.
Right.
So a lot of hospitals, on your second or third day out, that is absolutely necessary. You need to go see the physician, but why not on the first day?
Absolutely agreed. And I know a lot of hospitals, to interject for a second, even when you are at that day 2, day 3, and it's mandatory to go to a physician to prove that you're not just, blowing off a week in Tahiti, there's still that still counts against you. It's just protecting you from getting fired. But those occurrences still count, even though you are medically excused. So
Right.
I think
Absolutely, yeah.
adjunct to that is, if and when you get to that point, that those are not held against you. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
I think for our ability to take care of ourselves and provide the best patient care, that's something that honestly needs to be looked at. Because if we're coming to work with a foggy head, and we're not being safe with our patients because we're not able to think through problems, do that critical thinking that we all talk about, we're not really functional. We're just a warm body.
Exactly. We're just filling that staffing sheet slot. So, and I know here at St. Mungo's we have, and as do many hospitals across the world in America, we have employee health where we can go at reduced cost or no cost depending on where you work, and see, a physician or a mid-level and get that, strep throat or whatever it happens to be, without having to, go into your regular GP's office and pay a full copay. Because I can hear right now people saying, I shouldn't have to go pay a $20 copay, or, whatever it happens to be, just because I'm vomiting. It's obvious I can't work. But, I think if we could change the cultural mentality, we would have charge nurses, when people show up sick, be like, hey, you really shouldn't be here, and it's okay.
Yes.
Not
Absolutely.
like I'm sending you home because you're going to get everybody else sick, including your patients, but hey, don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. I had a nurse come to work in the last year when I was on pediatrics. She was down the hall in postpartum, and she came to work for her 3 shifts that week, and she was progressively sicker and sicker every shift. She was a night shifter. I was listening to her lungs one night, and then she came back the next night and was so sick the charge sent her down to the ER. She got admitted for pneumonia. She's in her 20s, and her SATs were like 86. So, I mean, and she was terrified of calling off.
I know.
I think that's a problem that plagues almost, probably every hospital system. It gets to the point where you want to take care of your team members and you want to be there for them so that they're not working short. Um,
Right.
and then you also want to balance that whole I don't want to get fired or disciplined because I'm sick,
Right.
and that becomes a hard thing to balance.
Right. And so, and under the system, like, if you did, like, say, like, for this G guy thing, like, it had already gone through a couple of people, and I knew it was only going to be 12 hours. That's a decision you can make on your own. Like, okay, I'm not going to go in for this, but maybe if,
Right.
if I got sick again, like in a month, and it was something that was going to be diagnosable, I could get that excused because you still would have your however many PTO. So you could make that decision. So you wouldn't truly have
Right.
to go every single time.
Right. And maybe on day one you don't go in, but day two you do, and you can, the doc will excuse you for both, just like a hospital stay.
Okay, well, I think that that's like some really great suggestions, Terrence. And I would like to see some more work on that, like a different policy. So at St. Mungo's, it'd be great to incorporate that into our policy. And if there's like repetitive call-ins because of an illness, and that can cue, I think, the leadership in faster, like, hey, maybe you need to fill out FML paperwork, and then that's excused.
Absolutely. And I think the people who are going to abuse it, they're going to work themselves out of their job eventually, anyways. They're going to make themselves known. I know, because I know that's probably one of the number one cons. People say, oh, but then it's just going to encourage people to take an advantage of. And I highly doubt it, especially when you're making that requirement to go, to have an actual note. That's going to be few and far between in my personal opinion.
Yes.
I think people that really care are actually going to go get the note, because there's a lot of people that don't necessarily fall in the FMLA category, but they don't necessarily fall underneath the necessary amount of absences within the year time frame.
Yeah, maybe they
do
have
rolling 12
6
months.
incidents instead of 5 or something.
Right. Exactly. Especially
Right.
when you factor families in, which a lot of us have.
Yes. And when you have 5 or 6 kids, it is difficult.
Yeah. Even one or two, though, you just never know.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
anyhow. All right. Well, great suggestions, Terrence. I really like that. That was something that we hadn't even looked at that angle. So, bravo.
I know. I was like, oh, this is a good one. So since we have Terrence with us, and he's a night shift manager, nursing manager, I thought it'd be great to get some insight into how we treat night shift people, like how we can be more considerate of the night shift team. Do you have any insight into that?
Absolutely. That's gonna be the word of the day for me. So I think everyone in the room has worked night shift, right? We know, especially you guys with large families, working night shift's a little bit different from working day shift, right? And there's some things that go with that. So I'm going to run through a few things here that I have on my list. I'm going to start with everyone's favorite, which is the night shift smorgasbord.
Like the grazing, the all night grazing, is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about nurses in general. We always want to have a party, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever reason, there's always a reason to celebrate. Because we showed up to work today, we get to celebrate.
Dude, we're having a pancake party tomorrow night.
I was going to say waffles.
I definitely need to bring in my griddle and some pancake mix. We're doing this. But there's always a celebration, but especially at night. And I've got to admit that it's not always the healthiest foods that we eat. What about you guys on your unit?
Pancakes
we
are yummy.
so healthy.
I mean, healthy.
Agreed. Yummy and healthy.
Not healthy.
Not healthy.
No,
Not healthy.
unless we're in the middle of like a challenge or something, like a healthy challenge between the units, which we just actually wrapped up. we'll do like wraps and things like that, or maybe towards the end of Christmas when you get sick of all, like, your body starts, we all start turning diabetic and we go into DKA when we come on shift, and then we start craving like greenery. But aside from those times, no, it's taco bar, baked potato bar, breakfast bar. It's always
Yeah.
fatty,
I
greasy,
know. I know. Let's see what I have tonight.
sugary.
Queso.
Oh, I'm like, that looks
Queso.
like a C. diff sample.
That is nasty.
Yeah, I'm putting that out.
No, you're
No, I
leaving
think that should stay in.
No, that is staying.
Thank
We
you.
voted 2-1. 2-1.
Yeah.
We voted. It's staying in.
Carrie's eating C. diff
Carrie's
samples.
queso looks like C. diff sample.
It smells delicious, though.
I'm
So
gonna
the
take
fact
your
that
word on
you,
that.
Oh my
the
gosh.
fact that you have queso sitting on your desk right now,
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be refrigerated?
non-refrigerated.
Thank you.
What else, dude?
I think
That'll
that's
stay
gonna
there
bring me
all
on to
night.
my. I think that's gonna bring me on to my next point. Is
Segway.
that was a perfect segue. The food availability at night. I know
Yes.
many hospitals have specific programs in place for specifically night shift, whether that be
Mhm.
like from 11 to 1 in the morning, we're going to have the cafeteria open, or we have
Right.
a little snack cart that goes around. Food availability for nurses working nights is very, very difficult. And when you're working multiple shifts in a row, thankfully now, we work 8-hour shifts, so you work 12s, Carrie. But when you're working multiple 12-hour shifts in a row, food is the last thing on your mind.
Yeah. Sleep is number one.
Sleep is definitely number one. And it gets a little more complicated whenever you have family involved. But food
I just pray
availability.
for leftovers in the fridge. Like, I mean, in my home fridge, so I can be like, ooh, yes, grab that and go.
But how many times do we forget our food at home? We
Oh,
have
yeah.
all the intention to, and then you get to work and you're like, oh man, I got 11 hours ahead of me and I have no food.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do?
You're
We go.
scrounging in your bag for a protein bar.
Whoever brought
Or a
cookies,
candy bar.
cake, that 3-day-old sheet cake that we all love.
So gross.
That we've all
It's like
eaten.
the Crisco frosting. You're like, yay. But yeah, so like St. Mungo's does not have anything open for us, but I have worked at different hospitals that do, but usually the menu is all fried food.
Absolutely.
Oh,
It's
yes.
the easiest
Hamburgers.
available
Yeah, so it's
uh,
still not
grill,
healthy.
snack bar. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely
Or
not
it
healthy
seems like
food.
whatever was left over from days. I mean, the menu is very narrow, and when it's gone, and you're scraping the rubbery fried, scrambled eggs or something out of the tray, and it's not appealing and certainly not healthy.
Oh my gosh. Like 4 hospitals ago, I sound like I've been at a lot, but 4 hospitals ago, they had a frozen yogurt machine, and oh my gosh.
Yes,
I
yes.
loved it.
Did it have all the
2
toppings
hospitals
like
ago.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. It
And
was
they
so
kept it
great.
up at night shift, and then they took it away partway through my time at that hospital. They took it away for nights because they said it wasn't cost effective, and I was like, it is on. I'm gonna pick it in front of this. I don't care about my 12-hour shifts. I don't care about my patient ratios. I want my froyo at 2 a.m., man.
Yes, for real.
Right, definitely. So like we're me and Carrie work in a large hospital system, and there are definitely the population to support a sustenance area for us to
Yeah.
dine on in the middle of the night.
I mean, we support a McDonald's.
We do, although they have been in
There's
the
no,
news
there's no
trying to get rid
cafeteria
of that.
at night.
No.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I think the
'Cause my
closest
branch of St.
cafeteria is
Mungo's
like
is
2
much
hospitals
smaller.
down.
Yeah. No, there's a McDonald's that's 2 buildings over. It's like 2 sky bridges over, right?
Definitely,
Boo.
And then there is a cafeteria, but I think it closes after dinner.
yeah. And we have a little snack bar that closes at 11. But if you're doing patient care, we all know that you time you actually have downtime is if it's by 11, you're doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And invariably,
So if there's
it will
any
be right after.
So if there's any hospital CEOs out there, That's a mandatory. You must have some kind of food available for your
We
night
need
shift
healthy
people.
food.
And
We
healthy
need
food.
fuel.
I remember back to your Thanksgiving episode, and you said the little protein snacks that you throw down in your pocket, and I was like, yes.
Yes, not a
Those
piece
will
of turkey.
save my bacon, man. Like, wait, not a piece of turkey.
No,
And not
I
a
hope it
some
wasn't like
almonds.
you're not like putting like a turkey leg down in your.
Aaron
your
would. Aaron
pants.
so would.
What about that pizza thing? Carrie, okay, we're posting this. Carrie found a pizza.
Reminds me of like Napoleon Dynamite when he
A
had the
lanyard.
tops
It
in
was
his.
a-
I
in
know.
his
It was a lanyard with a triangular shaped, like,
Pouch.
visqueen pouch that you could stick your pizza in around your neck.
oh, this is real.
Yeah.
Yes, no, for reals.
That
Amazon
doesn't seem
right now.
sanitary at all.
So
Sanitary at all.
funny. That's funny.
I mean, you
But
put
no,
it under your
definitely,
stuff.
especially, since you're already like vitamin D deficient because you're never outside. You're like a
Right.
vampire at night. Like you need fruits and vegetables and minerals because your body is like lacking in so much.
Right. What about these healthier vending machines? I've seen a few in hospitals, but in like dorms and stuff where they stock them with fresh fruits, vegetables, these, cheese and grapes, the almonds, craisins, turkey sandwiches, those kind of things that are fresh made that day in the kitchen, maybe as an alternative to places that don't have that cafeteria open at night, or even if they do, if you don't get there in that 2 hour window because you're in the middle of a laboring patient, or you had a C. differ explode all over the place, or whatever it happens to be, you've got these healthy vending machine options. What about those? Have you seen those? Weigh
You're
in.
making it really hard for me to eat my queso.
I would have no problem in that case.
I think those are a good idea, but I just don't know if they can't open up a grill, for a few hours. I don't know if they're going to be bringing in a vending machine that they have to stock. I mean, that's a high turnover.
But
Those
that's
aren't
something you
honey
stock
buns.
on day shift, though,
Yeah.
I think they would. Do you think they would be utilized, though?
I don't know, because it's like a
Or do you
shift.
think
a
people are
culture
still gonna
shift.
go
It's a
for
cult-
the
that's the thing.
Snickers?
It's like, I think people are going to go for the Snickers. I mean, that's
And the Diet
just-
Coke.
yeah.
Because they're being healthy.
Definitely, you have to have the Diet Coke, definitely.
I mean, you gotta
it makes
watch
it
your
okay.
carbs.
So my next topic is healthy habits.
Healthy habits.
I want
Healthy
vending
habits.
machines that are healthy. Okay, that's all I'm plugging. I would use them.
I'm for it. I'm for it.
Okay.
I know. How do
Back
you
to you.
shift? How do you shift it though? Because
How do you shift that culture?
yeah, I mean, people are exhausted, and so they're naturally going for that sugar, even though it's counterproductive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
I think
the
we've
most
got
readily
enough-
available, and
True. I mean, and I think we've. That being said, I think we would be surprised. I don't think they'd be like, oh man, they're all sold out. But I think we've got enough new agers. I guess it's kind of our generation, but health conscious people who like those protein snacks. They're the Greek yogurt people who recycle and who put chia in stuff.
Well,
they're
you're-
hipsters.
you're getting too West
Hipsters,
Coast
there
for
you
me.
go. See, I'm aging myself. I don't even know what to call it. But
Yeah.
I think people would go for it. I certainly don't. I don't think it would be the landslide option, but maybe maybe an eventual cultural shift, because I might want a Snickers, but I know my body's going to run better on some almonds and
Okay.
grapes.
I think Snickers are a bad example because that's awesome.
Okay, whatever. A
Cheetos and honey
candy bar. Cheetos.
So healthy habits, specifically working night shift. You're working, especially if you're working those 12-hour shifts. Getting a little bit of exercise in. At the end of a 12-hour shift or the beginning of a 12-hour shift, you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
this is not. If I got to work these 12 hours, especially if it's consecutive days in a row, this doesn't seem like a good idea. But based off of, we look at research of night shift employees in particular, our obesity rates are out of this world.
What?
Um, and
Every time I switch back to nights, I easily gain 10 pounds in a couple months. Minimum.
it's because of the smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord! I graze all night long.
Because we eat at work and then we go home and we eat again.
Yeah, because you don't want to wake up at 12 being hungry because your body's used to it.
Ugh.
So,
But have you ever heard of any? I've seen units that have like exercise or meditation programs that you do like during your shift.
no, I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Or gyms in the hospital for the staff. I've worked in 2 places now that have. They're not on the unit, but there's a staff gym in the hospital that you can for free, either before or after your shift or whatever. I guess technically on a lunch, but who has time for that? Because I'm eating. I don't care about being sweaty.
No, I've worked.
What about that option?
I've worked places where they have a gym, but it's never been convenient. Like it was because I've only worked at hospital systems, and so it'll be like at another campus. And I'm like, no.
Or it's like the physical therapy gym that's available for you during these hours, and it's like 4 buildings over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, these are like dedicated, legit gyms, 24/7. You just key code in. Simple. I to me, I think that's kind of the best. It's still up to me ultimately to go use it, but I don't know. It sounded great at first.
It does sound good. I think like, when you have this culture shift, and it kind of like perpetuates itself. So like I know on our unit, labor and delivery, there's a couple people that are very conscious of like during their shift, like they'll get their exercise bands out and they'll like stretch and they'll do little exercises at the desk, and I'm like, you go girls.
It's true, and it kind of snowballs.
I think really the whole sleep aspect at night, since we've all worked nights, night sleep is not the same as day sleep.
So much better. Night sleep is so much better.
Night sleep is way better than day sleep.
I can go on 3 or 4 hours of night sleep and I'm solid.
So Terrance's little tip sheet for getting good sleep during the daytime is this.
Let's hear it.
I've already heard one. And you used this, I think, in one of the first podcasts, Carrie. You had said, wear the sunglasses.
Oh, yeah.
Shield yourself from the
when
sun.
You leave.
Absolutely. Get you a good pair of dark-colored sunglasses and wear those things. I know here in the Houston area, we're driving. I drive about an hour in and out, and that's at nighttime. Daytime's even worse if you come in during the day. Most people, we're living 45 minutes to an hour out from the medical center out here.
Mm-hmm.
What about where you're at, Erin?
I'm personally much closer. My commute during commute hours is 15-20 minutes, but a lot of people in the valley and even where I lived previously, it was 30-45 minutes easily. And then that's if of course there's something on the freeway, then it can certainly be way more than that. So, or further, we have people commuting from the state line and up in the mountains even. So,
I know. But when I was working nights here, I live east of here, and so I would get sunrise in my face the whole way, and so it totally messed up my brain because it was just like, oh, it's totally time to be awake. And then I would get home and I couldn't go to bed right away.
And that's another thing. I wish I could, But
I do. I just want my sleep so bad.
You gotta have that wind down time whenever you get home,
Yeah.
So
I use an iPhone. What do you use?
For winding down?
No, not for winding down.
I was like, that's a terrible sleep thing.
I'll segue to the next.
It's his next item on the list.
Oh, for what?
Winding down.
Say that again.
Is anyone an Android person in the room?
Oh.
I'm a recent convert, and I'm on the fence.
I
to
forced her to join iPhone.
There was a considerable amount of peer pressure.
So one of the best things that I love about the iPhone is when you actually do get to sleep, you got to set it before you go to sleep. It's the do not disturb.
Yes.
Oh, I had that on my Android. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. You could set whatever numbers that you really want to hear from. If something happens, that daycare number, the school's number, the wife's number, or in your case, the
Mm-hmm.
husband's number. Um, those numbers that, hey, if I'm getting a call from this person, they know I'm supposed to be asleep or something's really going on. I use that religiously.
I do
Right.
too. I do that
Absolutely.
even for when I sleep at night because I don't want, because people, I like let people, I encourage people to reach out to me whenever, day or night. But I tell them, if I'm sleeping or with my family, I'm not going to answer. I'll call you back when it's convenient. And so I put that on there. But then also, at least on iPhone, if they hang up and call right back, it'll ring through. So
Yeah,
if it's
absolutely.
truly an emergency, it doesn't even have to be on your favorites list. It'll come through like the
Android's the
second
same.
time.
Yeah. Which is because you might
So I
have some
think
random number.
Yeah, but no, I think that's a great like sleep hygiene thing. Like you aren't hearing the text or the vibrations because it'll wake you up if you're like in that light sleep.
so.
And in,
Shielding our. Go ahead.
No,
I was
Aaron,
gonna say,
go ahead.
invariably, the times I forget is when everybody and their dog tries to call me that day.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, you'll put it on Do Not Disturb nobody, no
Nobody calls
activity at
me
all.
for
The
like
day
2
you
weeks.
forget, it's like every 15 minutes, right?
I know. Publishers Clearinghouse,
Every
Girl
telemarketer you could
Scouts.
think of. The
Yeah.
warranty on your vehicle has just expired.
Yes. Would you like to consolidate your student loans? No.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So Do Not Disturb, excellent. Shielding ourselves from lights, we talked about sunglasses already, but specifically in our rooms, blackout curtains are excellent.
Oh yeah.
One of my tips, what I do is, I don't care what the HOA says. I'm not putting foil up on the windows,
Aw, come on.
but for sure putting a box or something up there to shield as much light as I can out of the room, to kind of, yes, falsify my circadian sleep rhythm, right?
Mm-hmm. I did that. I made my own. Aaron knows. I made my own blackout curtains because I was too cheap to buy to buy them. They work.
think you
I
to
have the
be crafty
blinds,
for
and then
that.
I like put blankets, and I put layers, and I am like tucking them in. I mean, I don't want a crack of light coming through, not even a beam.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do the
And
white noise thing? I do. I put a fan on for white
So
noise
that's
as
actually
well.
that's my next topic is the white noise.
Yay me!
So if you're having a hard time, you're working those night shifts, and you're really having that hard time falling asleep, and staying asleep, more importantly, because the long guy's coming, or the kid
Right.
riding down the street on the bike yelling at the top of his lungs,
Yes.
the next door neighbor's dogs. Once again, the people ringing doorbells trying to sell stuff. Who sells
disconnect
stuff
it.
in the middle of the day?
Productive people are at their jobs. Except for us. We're bums home in bed.
Yeah. Did you say you're disconnected?
No, I said disconnect the doorbell.
Oh, right. So I personally use a large, very noisy fan. You said you do white noise?
I do either a fan, that's kind of been my drug of choice lately, or like a noise machine with like a thunderstorm or something, or like an app on my phone. But yeah, fan lately. And it works like a dream.
And it reduces the temperature in the room, which is important
Yes.
too.
Yeah, dual purpose there because I sleep better when it's cool.
Unless you live up north and it's like 6 degrees outside.
Nope,
Well,
I still run it.
she lives like in Canada, and she's still.
Oh, whatever.
My run's almost
Now we're gonna have a
24 hours
geography
day. I love
lesson
it.
on our next podcast. No, but even if it's negative outside, if like below zero, when I'm BTW, when I mean negative below zero, I still run it for the noise factor. I just put it on low, but
Yeah,
I
definitely.
run it for the noise factor.
I spent over $100 on my fan. I went for that
Ooh.
super duper airplane model.
Wow,
Get
that's
that
awesome.
geez.
noise. You don't hear anything. Love it.
I bet.
What else is on your list there?
What else is on my list?
ambient
Work-life
temperature, I'm going to
balance
add
and
that.
family involvement.
Oh, that's good. That's a good send us home
And this is the
topic.
last thing on my list, and then we'll move on.
Okay, hit us.
Work-life balance and family involvement. So all of y'all have worked nights. Carrie, you worked as a manager at night, so I think you guys were doing 8-hour shifts at that time, right?
I was working 5 days a week, and then I was on call. No, I was working 4 nights, then I was on call at night. So I was here all the time.
And y'all all have large families. I kind of feel embarrassed saying this because I only have one kiddo.
But one is a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
In ways, it's harder.
Yeah, there's no one to entertain her. Like, there's no,
Right,
you
yeah,
can't be
then
like,
you
go
have the
play
other
with your
kids.
sister. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So finding that balance between like work and life, and still working nights. People that don't work nights don't really understand that working a night generally means that you're working 2 days. Because you sleep in the day before and you're at least napping the next day, or you're napping the day before and you're really sleeping the next day.
Yeah.
Or you're staying up 24 hours. That's the other
24 hours.
option.
Come on.
And
Let's
then you
keep
got
it real. It's
grumpy
like
mama.
36.
Yeah, it is like 36, yeah.
And I get like hangry and grumpy, and you do not want to be around me.
That's how I was this morning, because I was up till 2, and then in the morning I was like, okay, let's get in the car. I love you. Okay, stop asking me so many questions. I'll see you later. Like, all I can think about is when I can take a nap.
Yeah, definitely. And finding that balance of spending time with your family, especially if you're working multiple shifts in a row, whether you're working 12s and working those 3 days a week, which everyone's like, oh man, you're so lucky you get to work 3 days a week. Yeah, but I work nights. Or
Even
you're working
days.
those 8-hour
I'm sorry.
shifts.
Give it a try, people. Because 12 means 13, and then maybe 14 with travel time.
Definitely. But finding that balance between spending time and having quality time with your family,
Absolutely.
and also doing a good job at work, showing up when you're supposed to show up and stuff.
The
That's
things
kind
the
of
boss likes.
that's kind of important also. Exactly.
So how do you find that sweet spot, though?
I think it's dependent on what's going on in life at that particular time.
Good answer.
Yeah, I mean, if family life starts getting a little bit more rough, your sleep starts to dwindle down till you find that balance again. Things are good. Take the sleep while you can get it, right?
Yeah. No, I totally hear you. Sometimes I think the sleep is the factor that you lean on the most. Like when I worked 8-hour nights like you did a couple of hospitals ago, and I had a very young family at that point, and I was like having babies still. And there are so many pictures of me at like family events that I know I barely even remember, but I was there. And so I'm like, when? I was there.
Right. I was there, but mentally I was asleep because I hadn't
My
slept
kids
in
remember
2
me
days.
being there.
Exactly. Like, okay, the one I'm thinking of is we went to cut down a Christmas tree, but of course I didn't handle any of the sawing or chopping, thankfully, 'cause I was very tired, but it was the only day we could go, and I knew I wasn't gonna get much sleep, but I knew I could sleep after because I wasn't working that night, and so my husband drove, and I went. So sometimes, we do that to ourselves, but it's not
Right.
something you can sustain. You have to find the balance for sure.
No,
Absolutely.
long term, it'll definitely kill you.
It seriously
Literally.
will kill you. Yeah.
Literally. And there's studies to prove it.
Yeah.
I think we segue into our next topic, right? Breaks.
Yes, let's talk about breaks. Let's get Terance's insight into breaks, why they're important, and should you be able to sleep at work when you don't have a patient responsibility?
So I'm going to start off with boring statistic.
Ooh, we love
Ooh.
statistics.
We do. Give us numbers.
So I found that we're talking just recently about specifically night shift sleep, and we know that a lot of times if you work nights, I didn't say this, but I guess I'm going to say it now. Sometimes your sleep is not consistent through the night, through the day. We're not going to say
Mm-hmm.
night because we're sleeping during the daytime.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you would like to be asleep as soon as you get home until the time you get out the door, reality is I know myself and most people that I've talked to. I don't know if this is the same for you too. You're waking up multiple times throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day because your body's not supposed to be asleep. Your body's like,
Mm-hmm.
"What are we doing here?"
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even though you're tired, your body's like, "I'm supposed to be up right now."
I
Yeah,
think
you're
people
just
are more cognizant of this too because we were wearing like the fitness trackers. And I know I send screenshots of mine to Aaron all the time. I'm like, I was
Absolutely.
up for a total of an hour and I woke up
when I
30
was supposed to
times.
be asleep. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, okay, I'm gravida, lots of kids, and so my bladder is going to wake me up day or night, but that's not what we're talking about here. Like you said, Terrence, you're fighting that natural circadian rhythm, and I'm exhausted, and my body is like, "What you doing? Why are we in bed? I know, why are we tired? We should be up right now. We should be watching Sesame Street, or we should be doing da da da." And so it's true, and it's so infuriating because and I stumble to the bathroom when I'm working a day shift, or I mean working a night shift. I'm like trying to keep my eyes closed. It's like that sunglasses thing. I'm trying to psych myself into thinking I'm still asleep just so I can get back to sleep. It's ridiculous.
Definitely. Um, so this particular study that I read talked about large teaching hospitals, and that's where it was conducted. And when you look at someone who gets 6 hours versus 7 hours of sleep, um, if the person who works 7 hours of sleep, if you had a hospital full of people that work 7 hours that had 7 hours of sleep, there would be zero errors, right? A
Oh.
hospital of 1,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that errors don't happen, but statistically there would, I don't know, is that right? Statistically, there would be zero errors in that to compare to the 6 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
If there were zero errors in the 7 hours of sleep, then in the 6 hours of sleep there would be 86 and 1,000 errors. So if 1,000 employees were working, there would be 86 errors a day.
That's an
Which is
appreciable
crazy.
difference.
So 1 hour of sleep makes that much of a difference.
And you think,
Uh,
1 hour, you're like, oh, I can deal with that. I can suck it up. It's just an hour. I mean, we tell ourselves that all the time. But that's wow. I had no idea. That really helps quantify it.
it's crazy, right? And these are, we know that errors that we know about are good errors because we actually know about them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of errors that are happening within hospitals, unintentionally, of course, that definitely go unnoticed.
Yeah. You don't know you made them.
Absolutely. You were talking about that in medication scanning.
Yes. You have really listened to our podcast. I'm impressed.
I'm impressed. I know.
I had to do my
Good
my
boy, a
homework.
T-shirt. I hope you don't feel like you had to study for this.
I did. I we have the doctoral student here. I felt like I had to
She is kind of a
have to
fancy
step up to
pants.
the
I know.
task.
Welcome to my world.
Well, our 30 listeners will be impressed too.
I know. Have we upped it to
Did
30?
I make number 30 or 31?
You're the 31st.
Let's round it up
In the
to 31.
31st. Yeah, so we know that as sleep diminishes, we have more errors. But what can we do to decrease the number of errors? And y'all did talk about sleep at work, and I kind of want to elaborate on to specifically not only sleep at work but also breaks at work. 'Cause a lot of times, our system right now, we're really pushing the lunch breaks right now,
That's right.
ensuring that people actually get their full 30-minute lunches. But within a 12-hour shift, I know every hospital that I've worked at in Texas, you get your 30-minute lunch and your two 15-minute breaks, provided that it's realistic. But we all know, working the floor, that's not always possible.
Right. Or I feel guilty. Like, if I take a 15-minute break.
Right, absolutely, yeah. Um, or you don't have that trust in the person next to you that they're gonna cover down for you if something happens. So you feel an obligation to be at the bedside 100% of the time, but you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
Yeah, we've been there.
So
I
that
have
that's
this
not
friend
always the
who's
best
been there.
case.
No, it's true. I mean, because and again, so if you don't, you may not trust your colleague, and it's nothing against your colleague specifically, but we have that. We're selfish. We're greedy little nurses. We don't want anybody touching our patients for those 12 hours or 8 hours. It's like they are ours. But if we're not taking care of yourself ourselves, like you said, Terrence, are we really the best person to be right to be at their bedside right then? If we're getting hypoglycemic because we didn't stop to eat or we haven't hydrated all shift. So yeah, really good point.
I mean, when we look at status boards, specifically nursing, um, not blogs. I mean, there's blogs out there, but
Mm-hmm.
what are the message boards
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
online? Um, our profession is plagued by people not taking breaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit
Absolutely.
worrisome.
It is, and it's the things that you've already cited, you and Aaron, and then also, I think it's a bit of a professional pride. Like I'm trying to be like I'm the hero of this shift. Like I don't know. We're kind of like gluttons for
It's
self
true.
sacrifice.
It's true. And it's totally the mentality of the in the culture. If we went to some other profession and we're like, "Hey, get this. You're going to work 8 hours to 12. You're not going to drink. You might pee once and oh, you're not going to get a break either." They would look at us like we were insane because
You know, people
nobody
would quit the
else.
first week.
Absolutely. But for us, we're like, "Well, yeah, of course. No problem. I
Yeah.
Yeah,
got this."
but 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 reality is we do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We make excuses of why there is no availability for us to actually take our breaks. Um, Whenever reality is I'm not going to say every single time, but most of the time, there's definitely time that you can go take a
Mm-hmm.
break.
There is.
There's someone that can cover for you. There's someone, but you have to have that trusting relationship with your peers, people that you work with,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to let that go for 15 minutes here or 30 minutes and just go take your break. So let's look at what happens when we actually do take breaks, right? So when we actually do take breaks, um, our mental acuity gets better. So we process things better whenever we don't have so much on our mind trying to process 1,000 things at once. So we're running around the floor and we're like, I'm so busy I can't take a break, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's probably one of the best times to actually take a break. So when you actually step away from the floor and you take that 5, 10, 15 minutes, um, provided that your patient's not coding at that particular point in time.
Yeah, I think that's a given.
15 minutes, things can wait 15 minutes. Um, Probably 90% of the times things can wait 15 minutes. Uh, but when we actually step away from the bedside, we go to that environment where we take our mind off of the 1,000 things that we have to do and we actually sit there and process everything that we have to do. So that's actually the best time to actually take a break. Um, Whenever you're really busy and running around, you stop and you take that break and you sit there and you look at things that you have to do. You prioritize. Okay, I have 5,000 things to do right now. That's exaggerative. I have 10 things to do right now that are all important. What do I actually need to attack first? What's the most
Mm-hmm.
important thing? You reorganize your thoughts and you actually become more productive because you're able to do that step by step. Okay, I'm going to do this, then this, then this, then this. So when we look at the business side of the house, we know nursing, um, from, from a leadership standpoint, has a partial business,
Mm-hmm.
but from a patient care standpoint, isn't completely a business model. Um, when you actually take breaks, your productivity actually increases.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been shown multiple times. Um, And that's one of the most important things, most important reasons why you should take a break.
Mm-hmm.
So the second thing is when you actually take this break, what is actually a break?
Right.
And that's difficult to define in the nursing world. Because if we're not clocked out, and even if we are, we still feel that obligation to actually be at the bedside 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in the nursing world, being at the bedside doesn't necessarily mean that you're physically at the bedside. It means that you're in the patient care area.
Yeah, you know what's going on at the bedside.
Right. And so detaching from that, and I'm going to say it again, you have to have that trust within your nursing team that they're going to take care of your patient while you're away. But detaching from that is really what a break is, that you're actually removing yourself from that situation. More often than not, I see nurses, they're going on breaks and they still have their, whatever the hospital you're at, whether it be a Spectra here, or I've used a program called Vocera, some other programs out there. Right, your pager, whatever it is that you're using to communicate back with your patients.
There's a clicking sound. Stop clipping your toenails, please. Thank you. That's Harry Potter reference. Okay, thank you.
So whatever your communication device at your particular hospital is, it's actually removing yourself from that communication device and actually physically taking your lunch.
Yes.
Or physically taking your break. And that's one of the biggest hurdles that we're having right now, right?
Yes. People don't feel like they can. And I think when you're talking about trusting the other person, it could mean that they don't trust their ability to take care of them, like their skill. But also I think more often it's they don't feel that that person will be able to handle their patient and the patient that their patients or patient they're leaving. And and then like kind of like having that whole culture of I'm going to go on my break, but the person I've handed off to is going to be supported by the rest of the team while I'm gone. And so I've worked at places where like on both sides where you do feel very comfortable. And then when you're like, no, if something goes down, they're not even going to notice because they're going to be so busy with their crazy team.
They're already so overwhelmed. Yes.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up. I was thinking the same thing with their assignment and the viability of even temporarily watching somebody else. Like you said, they may not have been aware, or if they are, then what? Now they've got, okay, who am I going to choose to take care of because somebody's going to get neglected. And I've worked in the same environment, some that have really good things in place, whether it's a relief nurse or CNA or somebody that comes around to relieve for lunches and breaks, and others where it's just like, hey, good luck with that, and we'll see you in 12 hours when the next shift comes on, and the complete lack of support from this, not necessarily your coworkers, but whether it's your management or your charge nurse even, or even your house soup, or where you should have all these resources, and there's a whole mixture in between.
So the other side of that is the person who actually, let's say me and Carrie's are buddies tonight, and I hand off my patient to Carrie, and Carrie's like, whoa, wait up. I got this patient that is a train wreck tonight, and now I have to take care of my patients and your patients. That's above my normal staffing ratio. That's not acceptable. But when you look to your left or your right, and that same person is like, well, I want to take a break too.
Right.
Okay, well, it's 30 minutes, cover down for me, and then I'll cover for you, That's difficult because a lot of times we don't want to, how do I say that?
We don't want to put people out.
Yeah, we don't want to put people in a position where they're uncomfortable taking care of their load and our load. But we also want to afford them the opportunity to also take their break too.
Right.
So it's a little bit of give and take in both people.
I don't want my coworker to think I'm a slacker. Like it's just like when we give report, we want to hand it off in this neat little tidy bow, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like hospitals are 24-hour places, and nobody's ever said every med has to be passed, everything has to be done. Yes, your documentation, but we don't want people to think we're slackers, and even if they're not, I'm judging myself if
Yeah.
I can't, you know, I
Oh,
if it's not all perfect.
for sure. As nurses, judge ourselves terribly. Like we're like, oh man, I don't want to be that guy that asks that. I really need a break, and I don't want to be that guy that's like, hey, I need you to watch my patients because I need to go take a break
Mm-hmm.
Or
when
heaven
everyone else
forbid,
is
and I've
running
got a
around.
med to hang.
I
Like I mean,
know.
I've had people like they have to eat. They're not doing good. They're this if they don't do it now, it's never going to happen. But you know what? They've got a med to hang, and they can't hang it before they go because something else is running, or and people are like afraid and they're like apologetic. I'm so sorry. Would you mind? Could you please? And it's like yes. I can go program your pump. It takes 3 minutes. I'm fine, but we do. We've all done it, and you feel like the leper on the floor.
If we as a profession actually get into the mindset where we can actually step away from the bedside and actually physically take a break, um, that's what it's going to really have to take to be able to say, like, hey, Carrie, you need to go take a nap, right? So when we talked about naps in the
Mm-hmm.
previous episode, um, it was encouraged at one of your facilities that you worked in. But what does it take to actually get to that point? Because when you look at the research of naps, they're good.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, what we're doing as nurses is we're loading ourselves full of caffeine, and then we're getting home and can't fall asleep, right?
Right. And,
Hmm.
having heart palpitations and all the side effects of caffeine.
Which we love.
Yeah, and it just
Yeah.
makes you jittery. It doesn't put you on point. It just gets you through the shift. You're
Yeah.
not functioning at your best capacity there. You're
Or if you're like me, you are, because it's like, it's a treatment for ADHD. I drank some caffeine and went right to sleep. But no,
Okay,
yeah, I
well,
think
you're not normal.
no, I'm not. So my brain functions differently, but that's okay. It likes stimulants in a different way. So, but at that hospital, they encouraged that. It was such a great culture to be in, and people didn't mind being on night shift. Like, it wasn't like some people, of course, like here we have a really long wait list for because people are like so tired, and they just can't function. But there, people would get on the wait list, and then like they just get the opportunity to go days, and they're like, no, I like nights. Like a lot of people. So there was a large core group of night shift people that because they were able to sleep and have like good we had matrix there, so their matrix allowed them to have like a couple 2 or 3 days off in between, which that is so important. I think I might have talked about my schedule when I first became a nurse. I worked 8-hour shifts, night shift, and I worked like three and I was off one, and then I worked two, and then it was off like a couple 3 days or something. But trying to work three and then off
That's just
one,
setting you up for an
that
error.
was terrible. So we never did that to anybody on the unit I'm
That's
talking
awful.
about, but that was terrible. So like having a good work schedule and then being able to sleep, like people will want to stay on night shift longer, which I
Yeah,
mean that is important because you want people that are experienced on
Right.
night shift.
yeah. There's a lot of systems out there
Absolutely.
that most of your nurses at night are the newer nurses.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like everywhere almost.
yeah, almost everywhere. And that,
Yes, it's become a trend.
while not necessarily a bad thing, we know that bachelor's prepared nurses are really good within their first 5 years. Um, as far as,
So they're still gaining life experience. I mean,
but
really.
right, so they're definitely competent, but they're not. They don't have that knowledge base of seeing 1,000 things,
Mm-hmm.
and those other than what's in the book. They don't
Absolutely.
know the what outside of the box.
Right, they don't know those outliers of like, oh, sometimes sepsis presents like this funky
Right.
way that was not in the books.
Which you could be there for 20 years and never see that, and then it happens, and someone comes up to you and they're like, Oh yeah, I had a patient that did that.
Right,
So when you
right.
have a
It's just that
core,
critical thinking skill.
right, when you have that core group, it's just what you've actually witnessed within your time frame. And if you've been a nurse for less than 5 years, you've probably witnessed a lot, but you haven't seen everything.
And if you've been on night shift and you haven't been able to take naps, you don't really remember any of it for the future.
Good point.
So
No, I would like to see that cultural mentality change to encourage, people to want to stay on night shifts so you can keep those experienced people who, because a lot of people, not a lot, some people enjoy night shifts, but it's just hard. It's physically demanding. It's tough on our bodies and on our minds and our work life balance and our families. And so, if we could change that culture, which we already have studies to support, napping on night shift, clustering your shifts, doing those things specific to nights that might be different than days, to keep that balance of your more experienced nurses with your younger nurses that you're training. I just think, I mean, just in general satisfaction, it would be amazing.
yeah, definitely. So you're talking about studies about napping. So it's shown a
Right.
thousand times
Napping
over that
breaks.
napping and breaks also increase your mental acuity. And but we have to have that in nursing. We have to have that availability to actually do it. And that's
Right.
that culture that we currently have is where the change needs to happen, so that we can allow for that to happen, so that we can have better outcomes, more safety for our patients, especially between the
Agreed.
hours in 3 and 5, where I didn't say this earlier, but
The
where
witching
most errors
hours.
actually happen between
Oh,
3 a.m. and 5 a.m.
that makes total sense. It's the witching hour.
That's what we call the witching hours. It's so true. So, well,
Yeah,
great. Good point. Thanks for bringing that up. I love it. That's
I know. I want
really
to
insightful.
say, like, of course, we're all about the patient safety, but also it's a safety of our nurses because I know I have driven home, and it's not that I just don't remember. Like, I have fallen asleep in my driveway. I've fallen asleep at the stoplight because it took too long. And
Yes.
that is super scary.
So that is the
Yeah. Or I'm
last thing
rolling the
on my
window down
list.
and blaring the music.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so
Good
that
job.
was on your list?
Yeah, so that is actually the last thing that I think we're going to talk about today is what I actually have down on my list is fatigue and travel and your commute.
All right. I
Um,
promise I didn't see this beforehand. We're just all on the same page.
um, so
On the
when
same wavelength. I wondered if you were cheating.
so so when you look at I read this one from NCBI, this one article out of them that as compared to day shift workers, so when you really separate shift work, they separate it into first, second, and third shift. Specifically, third shift on their way home are 3 times more likely to get in a car accident than our first and second shift counterparts. 3 times more likely.
That's
Um,
crazy.
and it's funny, we just had someone come in here today and talk to us, talking about people having trouble falling asleep on their way back from work. You said that you fell asleep in your car, whether at a stoplight or in the house, and definitely by the wheel, I've done that doze off. Um, but just 2 weeks ago, I came home and I fell asleep in the car. My wife got up that next morning and she knocked on the door and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like,
Were you in the garage?
"No,
Oh,
I
good.
was I was parked in the driveway and I had turned the car off and everything, and I guess I had meant to get out of the car and I just fell asleep in
You
the
just
car.
feel like, oh, I'm home, and then
Yeah,
you're out.
you
I
don't
have
even
done
notice
that
it. You're
many
just like,
times. But I know my son, he doesn't work shift work, but he was up driving after being up all night at a school function. And he actually got in a rollover wreck. He could have died because he just fell asleep. It was like he was fine, and then boom, he was in a ditch.
He was so close to home.
Yeah, he's only
Yeah.
driving 1 mile from the school to our house.
it doesn't take anything like that immediately.
No. And I remember you sent me those pictures and I was amazed that he did fine. I mean, really considering.
Yeah, he had a retinal
everything that
tear,
could
but
happen.
I'll take it. He was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take
Right.
that over a fatality.
Considering
any
he
day.
rolled over into a ditch
Yeah.
and what that car looked like.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And
if
he's
yeah,
like
anything,
super
it's
young. He's
just
not old like us, and like,
I know,
like
he's spry.
I know.
so if anything, maybe that
No,
nap
there's
will help us out on our drive home, so that we don't fall
Yeah,
asleep at the wheel.
yeah,
So,
right, so we can get home safely and also not be a hazard to everybody else out there. Because we're driving home when little kids are getting on school buses and going to
oh
school
yeah,
and moms in minivans and all of that, and everybody's making their early morning commute.
and we're working 12-hour shifts, and at the end of that, your second, third day in a row, you're basically driving home intoxicated sometimes.
yeah. You're definitely impaired.
Reaction
And
time's delayed.
if you do get in an accident, I don't think you would go to jail because you're not intoxicated, but definitely like driving impaired, that's against most of the state laws. So you will be, of course, financially responsible if you survive. You'll have
Right.
financial repercussions, but also you could have like criminal
Right,
repercussions.
because you should have made that judgment call that I shouldn't be behind the wheel right now. And
Yeah,
yet you did because you said, "Well, I have to get back home because I have to sleep because I have to come back to work." And
yeah,
once again, we get back to that pressure. Which leads me to think about again with night shifters and kind of our previous topic with PTO and being able to call in specifically because they didn't sleep or couldn't sleep or like I've tried to sleep all day and I couldn't sleep, and we've talked about that, Carrie, in a previous episode. Should there be some kind of an extra clause for night shifters, because we want them driving, working, functioning on lack of sleep, um, even if they're not sick. That's like you said, it's like you're coming in with a DUI. Do we really want you passing meds at the bedside?
yeah. It's rough. I mean, if that became a pattern of behavior, that's one thing, but definitely I think we should have some leniency for that. Like maybe just, okay, well, take a nap and come in an hour or 2 hours instead. Yeah. Oh, Erin, are you tired now?
I gotta work in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
She stays up early every night. Okay.
I'm not tired, but I'd like to see my husband for at least 20 minutes before I go to sleep because I'm getting up at 5:30 to call staffing.
Oh gosh. Well, good luck. Good luck tomorrow. Okay. Well, Terrence, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you. You had some amazing topics and points of discussion, and I love that you came prepared and you were quoting us. I felt like Hermione there for a minute. I was so excited.
Did you feel really popular? Like, oh my god, he said something that I said.
I know, I did. I was like, this is really not normal perspective, I'm sure, but I'm loving it.
Well, it was really
So
fun.
thank you.
I really appreciate y'all having me.
Well, we would like to have you back at another
Definitely.
point and talk about some other topics that we have on our
Absolutely.
list, our wish list of topics.
Yes, we would love to have you back. So thank you again for your time, and it was great chatting with you. And of course with you, Carrie.
Oh,
As
yes, always.
always.